Today, I will speak about multisensory development and technology for children and adults. So we are at the IIT, Center for Human Technologies in Genoa. And when we speak about multisensory integration, we speak about the ability of people to use multiple sensory information at the same time. Multisensory integration is very important to improve the precision in our interaction with the environment and to create useful and effective motor responses. Multisensory integration can be studied with different approaches, and this is what we are doing within my group. And in particular, we use psychophysics, neurophysiology, and mathematical models to quantify and predict multisensory responses. And we use multisensory processing to create new technological solutions for rehabilitation, education, and game. This is the approach we use. We study multisensory processing in order to understand which are the basic principles that are associated with the development. We create specific hypotheses about specific impairments that can be present when one or multiple senses are working differently or are not present or are just developing. And we create new technological solutions based on the results we have on these basic scientific findings. The technology we develop is useful on the one side to help people to improve in specific deficits, but it is also very important because it allows to better understand the multisensory processing behind the new solutions we have developed, for example, augmented reality or new sensory feedbacks. So we develop new technology, but we also validate this technology. We have a very big Italian and international network that is fundamental to do this work because, as you can imagine, we have to work with people, with children, with medical doctors, rehabilitators to do this work. Our multisensory technology is mainly used and applied to different impairments such as sensory impairment, blindness, deafness. People with no impairments, we will see some examples of children and adults without any deficit, some kind of motor impairments, and we recently applied it also to dyslexia and schizophrenia and mental disorders in general. I will show you three main application fields of what we do. The first application is rehabilitation. So how can we create a new multisensory technology to rehabilitate people, for example, with visual impairment? An idea might be to restore some associations between body representation and auditory perception by creating the new auditory feedbacks associated with our body movements. So AVRA is a bracelet that we have developed to allow blind children to have a sensory feedback to the body movement. When you move your arm and you are sighted, you can observe your arm movement. If you're blind, you cannot. But if I put a sound on my body, then I can listen the body movement. So I can have another form of sensory feedback associated to body movement. And it is known that this is very crucial during the first period of life to understand that this is my body. I have to reach for objects and so on. So maybe the auditory feedback associated to the body movement can restore body and spatial representation. And it can be also used to interact with others, such as in this case. So as you have seen, it is possible thanks to this device to interact with others. We have trained blind children with this device by doing activities of different way. In this case, there is a blind child running, and I can guarantee that it's quite unusual to see a blind child running. She was trying to catch the rehabilitator with the device on the arm. So it is possible to create new opportunities and also to train these people to better understand sound, position in space, to train motor abilities, and in general to improve social skills when multiple devices are used by different children. And so we have tested this kind of device with children before and after training for 1 month, and we have found very big improvement. But now I will move toward the other 2 aspects that are more on virtual reality, that I know is of interest for this conference. So I will move toward education and game. For what concerns education, I will present an application we have done for another project I have coordinated that is called Withdraw. It has been coordinated together with the University of Genoa in Italy. And in this project, we wanted to put together neuroscientific findings, pedagogical findings, and engineering to create a new technological solution for learning mathematical aspects at the elementary school. So as I said before, we have to start from understanding which is the need of the user, which is the need of the teacher. So we did the questionnaire around Italy and also in UK in primary school teachers, asking which are the most problematic aspects that they have to learn, that children have to learn. And they propose that there are some very high complex aspects. So one of these was the Cartesian plane. That we have then developed in a virtual reality manner. So for the Cartesian plane, we then asked these teachers to say whether in absence, if they can think about other ways of learning or teaching Cartesian coordinates, how, if it is possible for them to do that by using audition and touch. Even if most of them were continue saying no, just with the visual modality, some of them were able to think about ways of learning the Cartesian coordinates also with touch and audition. And then we involve these teachers in understanding how we can create a multisensory experience with the Cartesian plane. And this is the result. So it was a virtual reality system. We have tactile vibrations that were modulated by the position in space, sonification of the environment. So in X and Epsilon, there was a modulation of the sound. And this is how it was the final experience. So the child has to navigate on a Cartesian garden, and by moving, he has to follow specific coordinates in X and Epsilon by combining auditory information, visual information, and vibrations. We tested the before and after the use of this device for 1 week, and we did a pre-evaluation and a post-evaluation session in which we tested some aspects related to spatial navigation and symmetry. And in parallel, in UK, they tested the same approach at the pedagogical level. I will report here just the perceptual results. And one group was trained by using this system for different days, and the control group were also immersed on virtual reality game, but didn't have to make the experience with the Cartesian garden. And what we found was that only the experimental group had a benefit by using the device, this immersive system, and there was an improvement for the negative number line at 7-8 years of age, and for symmetry at 9-11 years of age. So it seems that also different aspects are differently trained with the same approach. We were also able to replicate and to readapt this system to include also children with visual impairment. So in this case, we just used audition and vibrations. We also simplified the Cartesian representation, and we increased the contrast in order to allow the child to have some, the residual visual was very low, but they could use it in some way to orient a bit. For sure, they were using more audition and touch, but also for them it was possible to make the experience, as you can see. And we are now finalizing the analysis of this data to see the improvement after the experience with this system. For example, in this case, here we are, he has to reproduce to find the coordinates of the square. Consider that this is a visually impaired children moving, oriented mainly by audition and touch. Okay, the last aspect I want to present is game. So we are also making applications with game. David Esposito did a very nice application, virtual reality, to create an archery game that is visual and acoustic. Contrary to what we are used to do, we are not using the hands to make this archery game. We are using the head. This was an excuse also to study the body coordination between head and trunk in people with and without visual impairment and in children. So we use this game not only to let them try a new experience, but also to, as I said before, to quantify the multisensory processing of integration between head and body coordination associated with the goal of reaching a specific target. So this is a visually impaired individual who is making the experiment, the training with us. So in her case, she cannot see the screen. This is just the feedback we have from the movement, and this is just for the rehabilitators. As you can see, she is moving the head by listening the sounds associated with the body movement in space. So she's using the head by listening the audio feedback to move the arrow. We created conflicts or not conflicts between the head and the body. So in this case, there was no conflict between the head and the body, while in this case, the head was stopped, while the body was moving the arrow. So in this case, there is an interference between trunk and body. What we observed was that all the groups were affected by this alteration, but early blind were more affected than sighted. Indeed, the alteration between trunk and body was producing bigger errors in early participants, but not in late participants and in sighted. We also recently collected the same task in children, asking to make the same experiment by altering the coordination between head and trunk to see how they represent space. And actually, we observed that there was a developmental trend around 10, 11 years. And this is in line with the idea that multisensory integration processing develops late. So just to conclude, I have shown you how it is possible to create specific augmentation and sensory alteration of sensory modalities. By creating a new technology, it is possible through virtual reality to create systems also for education and game. All these aspects are not only related to the technological development and the improvement of skills, but they are also a way to investigate how multisensory processing works. So on the one side, new technological solution helps in improving the quality of life of people. On the other hand, is a new way to better understand which are the deficits behind, and also allow to make a better validation, I think, because by understanding the basic principles behind and creating effective technology, we can also validate the technology, showing that its use improves that deficits also after its use. So to conclude, new multisensory technology can be used in different fields of application, such as rehabilitation, education, and game. The use of new applications can be also used to study multisensory processing and learning of children and adults with developmental impairments. And this multisensory and sensory motor approach can maybe be applied to other conditions that show multisensory and motor control impairments, such as autism. But future works will be needed for clarifying and understanding this is the case. So I want to thank you. We have a special issue open and some PhD and postdoc position open. If you are interested, you can contact me. Thank you.